Hello, everyone, and welcome to a live match reaction show on Football Tour Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, the show was planned to be a match preview of Inter Milan versus Liverpool, but so much has happened this evening that there is a lot to unravel. So sit back because this could actually be a long stream today. Uh, but before we begin, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching live, feel free to drop your comments and thoughts in the chat. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop your comments. So let's do the whole customary match preview where we talk about our opponent, which is, of course, Inter Milan. They are currently third in Serie A with 30 points, only 1 point away from the top, which is occupied by their rivals in AC Milan. They've played 14 games, 10 wins, 0 draws, and 4 defeats. But in the Champions League, they've performed really well so far. Last season finalists have played 5 games, 4 wins, and 1 draw. Sorry, 1 defeat, which was, you know, an unlucky moment for them. But let's talk about in terms of Liverpool. Even if we were in great form right now, this is a very difficult game um, that we've got coming up tomorrow. And let's look at the history. Excuse me, it's never easy to get a result at the San Siro. And Inter Milan are flying under their new coach in Christian Kibu, who, by the way, was a fantastic player back in his day. One player who has been in sensational form this season is Lautaro Martinez, who has scored 11 goals this season. One interesting fact about the striker is that he has scored in each of his last 5 Champions League home games for Inter Milan. And with our shaky defense, unfortunately, it could be 6 in a row. Now, let's move on and talk about Liverpool. The last time we played in the Champions League, we got destroyed 4-1 by PSV at Anfield. So we need to rectify and get back to winning ways. But of course, the big talking point has been surrounding a bombshell that was dropped by Salah in his post-match interview on Saturday after the 3-3 draw against Leeds United. And today there was a lot of anticipation for press conference as we were all expecting Arne Slot to address these comments that were made over the weekend. So here are some of the main points that were discussed in the press conference today. So I think it was the Sky Sport reporter. He went straight in to get the thoughts of Arne Slot in regards to Salah's comments. He said that he can't answer the question in regards to Salah being thrown under the bus. And then he confirmed that Salah has not travelled with the squad. Um, and that was the only communication that he had with Salah in the training session that they had earlier today. Before Saturday, both individuals had spoken, sometimes long conversations, sometimes short. Slot doesn't believe that their relationship has broken down, but Salah may feel like that. It was a surprise that he gave the comments that he did over the weekend. And Slot also says it's not the first time a player feels emotional after a match. And after tomorrow, he also said that the club will look at the situation again and address it further down the line. Another report asks, is there a possible return for Salah? And Slot said that he's a firm believer that a player can return to the team. Another reporter said, what was his reaction about being told he couldn't travel? He said it was a short reaction, which, yeah, probably it paints the picture there. And another report asked him, why have you only just recently dropped Salah in the last 3 games? And there was a couple of points that annoyed me about Slot here, but I'll read out what he said. So he said that the team we struggled, more of the game plan that teams have played against us. And he said not only the long ball style, which is definitely is the case. Slot said he's come up with solution and has tried different things. He said we've looked very vulnerable after all the things we tried against Forest and PSV. So then against West Ham, we decided to play with extra midfielder, where of course we won, and did it against Sunderland, and also brought on Salah at half time, which I agree was probably the right thing to do at the time because we needed a bit more of a presence in midfield. Against Leeds United, we played against a team that were playing a 3-5-2. So he decided to implement, according to his words, a 4-4-2 diamond formation, which for me is absolute nonsense because that's not what I saw. And then he said that he kept playing a bit more on the right hand side, a bit more on the left, and verse in between them. And he said that he could have played Salah, but decided to go with Ekatike. I mean, that is absolute BS. We did not play a 4-4-2 diamond against Leeds United. And the question was asked, has Salah played his last game for Liverpool? He said he has no clue. He cannot answer that question in this moment in time. And that shows me that he doesn't want to reveal the cards, but there's certainly been discussions behind the scenes. Then he was asked about, was his authority undermined? He said he doesn't feel like that. And then another report asked him, do you understand why Salah feels like he's been put under the bus? He said it's difficult for him to understand what he means and why he says this, and in terms of what he's referring to. He confirmed he's not had this conversation with Salah about that comment, and he's also stated, and this was interesting. He said that I'm usually a calm and polite person, but that doesn't mean I'm weak. If a player says these comments about so many things about me and the club, well, you can see what's happened there. He's not here. And when he was answering that question, he looked really pissed off. And then another reporter asked him, "Do you think, you know, that he could have done something different to avoid this situation happening?" Also said that he would need to know exactly why what he said, and he would also have to guess a little bit because is it because he's been dropped and he hasn't played games, or is there something else? And another interesting point, he said that he doesn't have the right to share um, those kind of thoughts with the media. He did it, but then it's the club's duty to react to it. Guys, just give me 1 second, please. I'm cooking along. I'm just going to open the window quickly. Bear with me 1 second. Apologies. Back to what I was saying. So another report said, why or when did you speak to Salah? Were you on speaking terms before losing out? He said that they were, um, but it doesn't mean that they were agreeing on things. He said that he spoke to him twice during the week before the Leeds game, but he hasn't spoken to him since. And he's only communicated today to inform him that he won't be traveling to Milan. So that basically means he's barely spoken to him. Um, so that's about Salah, which I'm sure we'll talk about in more detail in the show as well. But in terms of the opponents, something he said very interesting about Shibu's team is that it's a reflection of the player. His team are very comfortable on the ball. They defend very aggressively and in the high press, and they win the ball out a lot from the back. So that already tells me we're going to have a difficult afternoon or evening against 18 Inter Milan tomorrow. And then, of course, the press conference was in Italy. A lot of questions were going to be asked about Chiesa. Uh, and this was the last question during the press conference. which I found interesting. I'm sure you guys did as well. Um, he said that it's not up to him in terms of deciding who gets selected for the national team, whether it's Italy, Holland, or England. Um, he said that I'm very happy to see that Federico Chiesa um, has been in a better place this season than he was last season. He struggled a lot last season with fitness. This season he's much fitter, and as a result, he's played more games or more minutes this time round. And the moments that he's played, he's had a few very good moments. I don't like the way when he said few. I feel like that was a little dig there. And this is the BS part. He says, I like him as a player and as a person. So it's talking absolute nonsense there. So feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think about Arne Slot's press conference, because it shows me that there's clearly a breakdown in communication, and the hierarchy are definitely doing something in the background. Whether it was done prior to those comments made by Salah or it's been done as an aftermath, something is definitely happening in the back, in my opinion. But this wasn't the only thing that was spoken about in regards to Mohamed Salah. Jamie Carragher had a lot of things to say on Sky Sports on Monday Night Football today. And I'm not going to go and dissect the whole interview. I don't want to give too much airtime on this, but I'll be quite frank with you guys. I didn't like what I saw tonight. I know Jamie Carragher's name was mentioned in Salah's rant, but it was nothing personal. It's because Carragher's been very vocal about Salah's, different form and his contractual situation in the last 12 months. So I feel like he had a right to mention someone's name. It wasn't a dig. He mentioned Harry Kane's name. You don't see Harry Kane taking offense to what was said. But I think Carragher took it one step too far and made it about himself. Let's highlight some of the key points that he made from my point of view. Carragher said that this wasn't an emotional outburst from Mohamed Salah and it was all choreographed like he has done apparently over the years. I disagree. I believe something has been said or communicated to Salah, and this is why he has reacted the way he did on Saturday. I said this to you guys a few days ago, and I stand by it. I don't have inside information. I am speculating, and I'm also reading in between the lines in terms of the comments made by Mohamed Salah. I think the club are trying to ship Salah out of the club, and it's without his agreement. He's kind of being forced out of the club, and that's for me was the catalyst, the reaction in terms of why he spoke so freely and why he pretty much, let it all out. Back to Carragher's points. He mentioned that he didn't like the term that Salah used when he said under the bus, and says he's tried to throw the club under the bus twice in the last 12 months in regards to the contract and, of course, this current interview as well. I don't personally agree with that, but that's his point. But then he used the same analogy to disrespect Salah by saying he doesn't need to defend or track back, and that's a privilege that he has at Liverpool. And then he goes on to say that he's thrown the right back under the bus for the last 8 years. What a diabolical thing to say. Klopp's system was built around Mohamed Salah to be the leading goal scorer and creator. The setup was designed to get the best out of Mohamed Salah. These are instructions given to the players. These are tactics deployed by the coach. Most world class players, like your Messi's and your Ronaldo's, are also given the license to express themselves and not be required to track back as much as other players. Because guess what? They are world class talent. They are the players that do the difficult part, which is scoring the goals. They produce the goals, they produce the assists that helps the team to win the trophies. I don't hear anyone disrespecting Messi and Ronaldo, that they don't track back when they used to play for Barcelona and Real Madrid in their heydays. And to make it worse, Carragher's alluding to say that Salah has been one of the best players in the last 8 years. So you're very much contradicting yourself with that statement by saying you put the right back under the bus. But we've reaped the rewards as Liverpool fans, because you call yourself a Liverpool fan, even though you were Evertonian when you were growing up. But you said that the moments that Salah produced has been the best of his lifetime in recent years. But then read the room. There's a reason why he's been able to evolve in our team is because tactics have been set up for Mohamed Salah to get the best out of his strong skill set, and that is being a goal scorer and a creator. But then it got personal from Carragher. He said that before Salah came to Liverpool, he was known as the Chelsea failure or Chelsea flop, as most of us fans would say. He also said that he never won a major trophy before he came to Liverpool. Egypt are one of the most successful teams in AFCON history, but he's never won AFCON personally. I mean, that was uncalled for. There was no reason to go below the belt and mention these kind of stats or mention this sort of information. And Carragher just took everything personal when it really wasn't about him at all. He said he's never criticized Salah as a Liverpool player, but quite recently he said that his legs are gone. So again, contradicting yourself a little bit. But I will say one thing that I got off the interview that I thought maybe Carragher has a point. And that was that Salah should take a bit more responsibility to help the new players gel in the team. So that example he used was Florian Wirtz, where in the Frankfurt game, um, maybe he could have helped. I think there was a moment, excuse me, where he could have squared it to him. Um, and of course, if Wirtz had scored the goal, I think it would have given him a huge boost and confidence, and it would have been just about scoring goals. Um, that will show you, being a senior figure and being a bit more unselfish in those kind of moments. And it's not all about just, racking up the goals. But at the same time, attacking players are renowned for being goal scorers. And those type of players are not always aligned. When they're in a goal scoring position, they are only thinking about trying to hit a shot on target and trying to score. So for me, I don't completely agree with that last comment about Wirtz and Salah, but it, it's a valid point to an extent. But regardless, Carragher has been a bit reckless with his comments about Salah. Some will agree with him strongly, some will disagree. The sad thing about this is that I feel like Carragher does this for views and clicks. Yes, he's a former player, but he's not an ambassador for the club. He tries too hard to be neutral, and in my opinion, it comes across negative towards Liverpool. So those are just my thoughts about Jamie Carragher's interview today. So please feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. Before we move on and talk about team news and predicted lineups for this match, I'm going to go through some of the comments now. So, Bo says, Ozzy, my guy, big up Bo, hope you're well. He said, another crazy day, and I wanted to be up starting that press earlier. I hear you. No respect or anything. And we all know that kid is not sick. Yeah, he's not sick. He's not sick, I don't think. Just an excuse to keep him out of the limelight. Ridiculous. Because obviously, him returning to Italy, they're expecting him to play. Especially with Gakpo injured as well. They expect him to play. But I don't know what to make of it, to be fair with you. Wayne says, big up Aussie in chat. Big up, Wayne. I hope you're doing well. I said, love you, Aussie, bro. I hope you're doing well. Big up, I hope you're doing well as well. Thoughts on the Fabregas link as head coach for LFC? We will be talking about today. There's a few transfer rumors circling today, as well as speculation regarding managers. So we'll be touching on that today as well. As I mentioned, that it could be a long stream in the end. But also, I'm sick to my stomach about hearing that they back Slot FFS. What did they see him in? I don't know. Unless they're buying their time to find the right candidate, that's the only reason I would say that they're sticking with him. Because there is no other reason to stick with this coach. He's not shown the levels this season. And his true colors have been revealed. He is just, for me, not good enough to lead this team forward. He's I'll probably talk about Slot about his negative every stream, but he lacks man management skills. Like it's really, really poor for someone at this level, and his tactics are a bit stale this season, and I feel like he's been found out. So, when you've been blessed with 450 million worth of talent, that I still stand by. I think they were a fantastic signing. I know some will disagree and think it was a weak or a terrible summer. I don't. I thought it was a good summer, to be fair. It's just that the players haven't gelled or they haven't played, and so many reasons in terms of why it hasn't worked. But in terms of Slot as a coach, I don't think he's the one for us going forward. Also, don't get me started on Carragher. Yeah, honestly. Um, I always said Master's told me the search is already on. I hope so. I hope you're right. I mean, they'll keep saying they will backstore until yeah. That I understand. If they are trying to find the right candidate and have discussions in the back, that does make perfect sense. To be fair, proper cool. But yeah, they would never throw the manager under the bus. It would never happen. And even in this scenario, they wouldn't back Salah over Slot. It just wouldn't work. So yeah, I do agree with that. But they have already started approaching. I hope so. I hope you're right. Hopefully some good managers. Wait, says to be honest, after everything that's come out today, I don't think they will get rid of Slot anytime soon. I don't think so either, unless a certain manager gets sacked tomorrow, uh, which I'll also be talking about today. That says big up Ozzy, this is mine for tomorrow. So his lineup is Allison, Bradley, Ibu, Virgil, Robbo, Ryan, Jones, Don, Vert, Isak, Hugo. 45, then maybe Rio. Ahmed said that boy's gonna be coming soon. Either Salah, so will be here next summer. It's weird that kid is always ill when he has a chance to start. That's actually true. I've noticed that as well. Obviously, they can't sack Slot now because of what Salah. Yes, what has done. It will say player power has won, even though you'd be sacked for the result. Nothing to do with Salah. I agree. I think Salah for maybe coming out could put his position under fire, but I think he's strengthened it a little bit, or he's given him a bit more leeway until the end of the month, which for me is not acceptable. To be fair, both said they should have sacked him after the first game. I agree. I think that should have been the decision as well. Honestly, I agree. He should have been sacked. Yeah. Both said Slot hates to talk about Chiesa, and I hate to hear Slot talk. I hear that. I agree with that. I've got a feeling VVD will get the same treatment as Salah in the second half of the season. Uh, Both, did you see Arsenal's tweet, Ozzy? I haven't. Let me see if I can bring it. I haven't been on Twitter for the last couple of hours, so let me have a look. Um, which tweet are you referring to? Bo, is it the Carragher one or is it the one? But he's tweeted quite a few times in the last few hours. Yeah, let me know in the chat what comment, and then I'll bring it on the screen as well. Yes. Wasted carries LFC and Sky mouthpiece. If Brighton Salah's last game was in, uh what would the fans do you think? Look, it'll be very evident if it is his last game. If he's overly emotional, which he looked a tad bit like that the other day when he was tapping towards the end. I just have a feeling it's gone. I think something's been discussed in the back, and I feel like he already knows where his destination is going to be. And that's not the way to treat a club legend, in my opinion. What is it that Chiesa? What is it in Chiesa that triggers Slot every time? It's absolutely unbelievable. I have no idea. When it says Slot's job is safe till next season. About that, Slot was about to say yes. Was it this one? Let me bring it on the screen. Yeah, on the voice say it's not my decision. Yeah, we know. We know who calls the shots. Yeah, we do know who calls the shots, unfortunately. That's the onslaught. Um, so yeah. But let's move on and stick to the script and we'll talk about team news for this next fixture. So in terms of Inter Milan, former City defender Akanji has been suffering from illness, so he might not be available. Darmian and Dumfries are definitely out for this fixture. Palacios and Di Gennaro are also missing for this one. In regards to Liverpool, Federico Chiesa is ill, but he did say that we are monitoring his situation. If he has a miraculous recovery, which was another dig there, he could travel with the squad tomorrow. Cody Gakpo is out for the next few weeks. Endo has not traveled due to fitness issues, and Frimpong is still out and not available for team selection. So let's move on and present the predicted lineups, and let's see how the teams will set up. So that's not what we wanted to see. Let's start with Inter Milan. So their formation this season has pretty much been a 3-5-2, and I think they'll stick to that. So in goal, you've got Sommer. On the right side, it'll be Bisek, who will come in for Akanji, in my opinion. And then you've got a Serbi, and then you've got the dream signing. I'm looking forward to seeing him tomorrow in Bastoni. Now, in terms of the midfield five, I think Augusto, even though you got Henrique there, who could also play, but I think Augusto will start ahead of him. Mhm. Carlos Augusto, former Liverpool target, which I'm sure you guys remember. Zielinski, he'll be signing midfield alongside um, Çalhanoğlu. Excuse me, just cough, honestly. Um, and you've got Barella, player that I really rate. Trying to get rid of this ads. It's not going. And DiMarco, who will be a creative outlet for Inter. And up top, you've got Turam, and then you've got Lautaro, Martinez. Now, looking at that team, of course, they've got Biseckin, who's, to be fair, he's a decent young defender, to be fair. Acerbi is just someone that's of older age, so maybe someone that we can exploit in terms of, putting a striker on the shoulder to, stretch the centre backs there. So that'd be one area of weakness. I guess you can assess the midfield are strong. DiMarco, fantastic wing back on that left hand side. Zielinski, very industrious in the midfield. Çalhanoğlu, very good on the ball. a dangerous set pieces, and Barella, box-to-box player, really, really talented. But Lautaro Martinez is in great form, 11 goals so far this season. He scored 5 Champions League goals in the last 5 home games for Inter Milan. So he's going to be one to watch out for. And Thuram, hard worker, probably not the best in terms of being a clinical finisher, but definitely a player that can cause issues as he loves to attack the channels. Um, and this team is a very, very solid team. So I can be honest with you guys, not looking forward to it tomorrow, if I'm being honest. Um, just gonna go through some of the comments before we move on. Um, Bo says this is Bo's team, so he's gone for Ali, Bradley, Gomez, Virgil, Robbo, Saboda, John, Verts, Rio, Isak, Ekitike. Um, that's gone for where can we pressure into Ozzy? So as I just mentioned, I think the centre backs, you've got a young profile in Bisek who we can try and exploit a little bit more. You've got a Cherby who is player that is of age, and of course, looking at how PSG performed in the cup final last season, he was exposed quite a bit. So maybe if we can get attacking players or quick players around him, we can exploit his inability to catch up with them. The midfield is solid. If I'm being honest with you, no real weaknesses, especially when you've got a team like Liverpool that have been in such poor form. Um, I think we just have to make sure that we are on top of our game. We win the 50-50 battles, and that way is when we can get the best out of them. But uh, with the wing backs, maybe if we're a bit more aggressive in our play, we push them back so they end up becoming fullbacks rather than wing backs. So that would be the way I look at it. But we're not playing in good form right now, so easier said than done to try and deploy these sort of tactics. But for me, not not an easy task to commit with, unfortunately. Okay, so let's present the Liverpool lineup. So I'll be honest with you guys. I'm going to present two lineups. I'm going to present what I think Slot would do. And I'd also like to give you my take in terms of what I would do if I was in Slot's position. So let's start with Slot's team, which will be the team that I predict will start tomorrow. So I think it'll be a 4-2-3-1 formation. In terms of the players, I think it will be Allison in goal, of course. Bradley, right back. Do not like this. I think Kanate will stay in the lineup, even though he should be dropped. Van Dijk, and I think Kirkes will remain in the team as well. Now, Gravenberch will start in a double pivot. I can spell his name properly. And you're not going to like this either. I think McAllister will return to a lineup. I think Szoboszlai will play on the right hand side. With Jones playing in that advanced midfield role, and I think Florian Wirtz will start on that left hand side. And I actually think he's going to rotate. I think he's going to go with Isak up top. So this is my predicted lineup. This is what I think Slot will go with. Um, Feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. Now, in terms of how Liverpool can, get the best out of this team against Inter, we've got to make sure that Isak is pressing because we will need him to be disruptive to the likes of Acerbi in their back line. So use his pressing, be aggressive in his play, and cause issues to the back three. You'd want Verts to be clever and invert from that left hand row and influence the team in that way. So Bosler, I think his job will be more of an industrious role where he keeps DeMarco at bay in my eyes. Jones, McAllister, Gravenberch will need to be physical up against Barella, Koglu, and excuse me, and Zielinski as well. So, can we win that battle? Yes, we can, but not the way they've been playing recently. So, a lot has to change for us to get a result in this game. And I think Kanate and Virgil, they need to be on top of the game in order to stop the likes of Turam and Lautaro Martinez. So this is my predicted lineup. Or should I say, this is the predicted lineup that I think we will end up seeing tomorrow. So this is what I think Slot will present. Now I have to give you my 2 pence. So my 2 pence is I would like us to play a 4-4-2 diamond formation with no Salah, no Chiesa, no Gakpo. This is the right time to test this formation. There is a better time. Whenever I presented this formation, everyone says, "Oh, what about Salah? Salah's not around now." For the time being, anyway. So test the waters with a different setup, a setup that I feel like will be able to get the best out of the players that we have in the squad. So let me fill in the gap. So Allison, of course, starts in goal. Conor Bradley starts at right back. Oh, not Barcola. um, Bradley, Joe Gomez starts ahead of Konate because you can't feel like you're able to get away with murder in this team. Van Dijk, if we had never something, I probably would rotate with him, but we don't have too many options. I'd go with experience for this one because of the hostile environment that it will be in San Siro. So I'm going to go with Robertson. And in another number 6 row, I'm going to go with Gravenberch, Soboslai. In that right side, number 8 row, I'm going to go with Jones ahead of McAllister because I think Jones has been the better player in recent weeks. Florian Wirtz playing that number 10 role. Isak and Ekitike. Top. This is what I would do. I think this team would provide the right balance. I think they would definitely pose an attack on Inter Milan because when you've got two live wires, Ekitike and Isak, who can do a bit of both. Ekitike can drop deep and be, a second striker, if you want to phrase it that way. Isak can be the one on the shoulder. Both are very quick. They both can attack the channels. So I feel like that would be disruptive to a back three. And what would happen is because they're applying so much pressure, you end up making Inter Milan drop deep. And it ends up forming a back five rather than a back three in that moment. So playing with two strikers like that, I think you're going to get the best out of our current crop of players. Verts playing a free role in at number 10. Szoboszlai being an engine in that right-sided role, but at the same time being able to be creative. Same for Jones as well. And if our fullbacks go forward, so both and Jones will be able to cover the ground. Groundberg, for me, he can split in between Virgil and Gomez and form, as a back three at times, allowing the fullbacks to play as wing backs in transitions during the game. For me, this is I don't want to say it's the perfect team, but for me, it has the right mix and the right ingredients to get a result against Inter Milan tomorrow. So this is my team. This is what I want to see tomorrow. Whether we do, honestly, I don't know, but at least you guys can see my vision in terms of what I want from the club. Um, and yeah, let's see, what transpires tomorrow. Um, now, in terms of score predictions, I'm not trying to be, a downer in my recent shows, but I don't have a lot of confidence in this team right now. So I'm going for a defeat, unfortunately, guys. I'm going to go for a home win for Inter Milan. I think they'll win 2-0. I don't think we'll get score a goal. If it's the stock team, if it's my team, then maybe we can get a draw, if I'm being honest with you. Um, but if it's what I'm envisioning it to be a slot team, I think we'll lose 2-0. I think they'll have too much for us in the end. And I think in terms of the two goal scorers, I'm going to go for Lautaro Martinez and I'm going to go for Barella. So feel free to drop a comment, let me know what your score prediction is for this game. I'm just going to go through some of the comments before we do a bit of transfer talk before we close the show. um, Bo says, spent last night to look on Inzaghi. What a man and what a person. Loved by both players and fans in Lazio and Inter. Would be perfect man for me. Your thoughts, Ozzy? I hear you in terms of the way you've described him. I just don't know if his philosophy would work well in the Premier League. That would be my only reservation. Um, I do think he's a good coach, but I don't know. I'm not completely sold on him being one of our top candidates. For me, it's Alonso. That's the one that I would go for. The dream would be Luis Enrique, but I don't think that's realistic. But having said that, Inzaghi is definitely up there, in my opinion. And I don't think he would mind coming back to Europe if an opportunity was presented. But then again, he might be earning so much more money, which I'm sure he is in Saudi, that maybe the lure for a European job isn't as appealing as it probably was beforehand. Boss says Slot would probably start Gakpo anyway, even if he was on a wheelchair. That's hilarious. He can't drop Ekitike after 2 goals. I agree, but this coach has shown me that form doesn't matter, especially when it comes to Ekitike, because it's evident Ekitike has been the more informed striker. But this will be his plot to rotate. Will be his angle that he needs to rotate the strikers. So this is why I think he will end up going with Isak ahead of Ekitike. Let me present the start lineup because it's a bit more clear to what I think will happen tomorrow. Most of the Macan Grav does not deserve to start at all. I agree. If Endo was fit, I may have rested Gravenberg for this one, but unfortunately, Endo's not available. If it's 4-4-2, who plays on the left? Uh, in terms of my formation is a 4-4-2 diamond. So we're not playing with wingers because we don't have any wingers. So that's why I'd go with two strikers instead. But if you're referring to this being a 4-4-2, then it'll be Verts. Verts will be the one on the left hand side. And then you've got Jones playing just behind Isak in this predicted lineup here. Bo says 4-1 loss incoming. I wouldn't be surprised. Ozan says, Yo, Ozzy, pick up Ozan. I hope you're well. He says, sad day for the club today. Yeah, it's been a sad 2, 3 days to be fair. Um, and unfortunately, it's overshadowing everything that's happened. Like, not that it was a great result, but, you know, if Salah hadn't said those comments, what would have happened with Stoke? Who knows? Maybe he would have been sacked. We'll never know. But it's already been a bit messy at the club. It's been a bit of a circus in terms of how we performed in recent weeks, and this has added more fuel to the fire. So yeah, it's very, very disappointing to see, if I'm being honest. And today, the comments from Carragher and then the press conference just didn't help. Um, Boss says, yeah, we'll lose. That says 2-0 to Liverpool. Big up Daz for the positivity there. For Bats and Isak to be the goal scorers. Boss said he the physical man who presses and going fast for me. My choice. Fair enough. Well, of course, also lost. So no, I hear you. I hear you. Look, anyone but a slot at this stage. And was also gone for a 4-1 formation there. Not 4-1 for 4-1 scoreline, sorry. Was it just please no Nagelsmann. I still have some reservations towards Nagelsmann, to be fair. Kratos, speaking of Kratos, he says, I'm tired of seeing verts on the left and so on the right. I prefer the diamond. Yeah, the diamond for me, let me put on screen as well. This is with the current proper players we have in our squad. This has to be the formation he plays. It has to be. We don't have any wingers. No Chiesa, no Gakpo, no Salah. Rio, yes, I know he's there, but it would be a big task for him to play in this game, in my opinion. So that's what I would go with. Boss, if it's Nagelsmann, I might go crazy. Listen, would you rather have Nagelsmann or Slot? I'll have Nagelsmann all day of the week. Dilly Stevie up, Dilly Stevie says the slotting crowd has fully turned against Salah Oz. I think that's outrageous. Look, I understand if fans have opinion in terms of him, being so vocal, because I agree. He didn't have to speak to that extent. He said too much. But I think there's something more to it. I've said it in recent days. I think he's been told that he's not valued at the club and he'll be moved on in January. I truly believe that. Why would he say that he's invited parents to come round next week at the Brighton game? Makes no sense, right? Something's definitely happened in the background, I'm sure. Abdul said 9 losses and 2 draws are not acceptable by LFC standards. Arsenal needs to go. I agree. Bulldogs, who are they? AGT, Redman, and Cop TV. I don't agree with that, to be fair. Boss said, would there ever be fans booing to start and singing sacked in the morning? Ozzy, he was booed the other day, wasn't he? Against Forest? I'm surprised he's still there, to be fair. Abdul says Salah's comment is unacceptable, unprofessional. He will be sold. Unfortunately, yes, that is going to be the consequences for his actions. Steve says so many want him gone as soon as possible, like he never did anything for the club. Yeah, I'm very surprised by that reaction. If I'm being honest with you, I think we can all agree that he probably should have done it in terms of the timing and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like that was bottled up frustration. He just thought enough is enough. Let me say what I've got to say. That's what it felt like to me. Also, those are not LSC fans. Tiger fueled him. Yeah, Carragher, he definitely ignited that reaction. Also, I can see Salah going to Piers Morgan. Don't be surprised. He actually tweeted him the other day saying, "Do you want to do an interview?" So you never know. Abdul says Liverpool need 2 centre-backs, CDM, and 2 wingers. Yeah, we're not getting those players anytime soon. Liverpool needs to hire a cricket manager to replace that anyone a Slot. Where's have you seen any post about Salah agent finding out about the secret plot to force him out to sell to Saudi? I have it saved. We'll go through it together very shortly, if my voice allows me to. Um, Moses Abdul, no signing, no new players now. Please forget about it. There's one thing we need now, sack Slot. I agree. Right now, for me, we have been linked to players that I'll talk about today, but yeah, it just can't be under this coach. For me, it doesn't make sense. Like, you mentioned about 4 or 5 players there, not on the slot, not at all. Okay, let's move on and talk transfers before we close the show. So the tweet that Wayne was just referring to, I have to bring up on the screen. So this was an indie bomber earlier today, and I'm going to read it word for word. Liverpool just decided to sell Mo Salah in January. Yes, you heard that right. Despite the club briefing journalists this morning that Liverpool want to keep Salah, was to keep everyone calm. Sources whispered the top bosses have overruled everyone and said he's gone. Arsenal barely got a say. Sporting director and the big suits pulled the trigger. That's facts, to be fair. They're only selling once valuation is met and will immediately activate Semenyo's release clause to replace him. Salah's agent uncovers Liverpool's secret plot to ship Mo to Saudi Arabia behind his back and the anger of the Egyptian star, according to club sources. I said that to you guys a couple of days ago. I think that's exactly what's happened here. Mo is open to all options, including Barcelona, Real Madrid, or Bayern. A Saudi contract offer could be the most appealing. More update on Slot's future. Also, as we told, his job is under threat and results need to improve immediately. But if Real Madrid acts Xabi Alonso in the coming weeks, Liverpool will approach him to come to Anfield instantly. So the last part, am I mute? Here you go. Something is happening, to be fair. Um, and I think that is literally what's happened. Am I back now, guys? Yeah, I think I should be back. Sorry, I tried to position my mic and I'm touching the mute button. Um, appreciate Kratos. Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you. Um, so yeah, unfortunately, despite what Carragher says, saying that his this reaction was orchestrated, it wasn't. I think he has been told, or they found out that they are willing to accept an offer outside. I know they've mentioned European clubs. I don't think that's an option. To be fair, I think what's happened is last season. I don't think they wanted to keep Salah personally. I think they were more afraid of letting him go on a free because you don't reap any reward of him leaving in that way. So therefore, Van Dijk and Salah got the contract, and of course with Trent deciding on his future, there's more money to play with, I guess. So that allowed that decision to be made for both players. Maybe if Trent stayed, it could have been maybe Van Dijk was to leave, for example. And I think what's happened is that their initial thoughts about not keeping Salah because they probably thought, he's over a certain age and he might not be as impactful. Unfortunately, has come to reality. He's not been great this season. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He hasn't. He's been a shadow of himself, and there has been a decline in his play, whether it's from his sort of speed in terms of his running or taking on the fullback. I personally think we shouldn't be playing him in the right wing position, but that's another conversation for another day. And I think the only reason they gave him the contract was because allows us to sell him on when we think that we feel like the time is right. Now they would have envisioned what's happened to in the last few days into the Salah going out in public and expressing his frustrations about the club. I think the plan would have been to try and sell him in January, in the summer, where he has 1 year remaining of his contract and still holds valuation. Now, the target market would have been the Saudi market because, of course, I've said this numerous times, Saudis will always have an interest in Salah, whether he's 40, 45, doesn't matter what age he is. As a sportsman, he's one of the most popular people in the world, and especially in the Arab world, he's a cash cow for them. So if they were to sign him, you know, you saw the levels when Beckham went to LA and when Ronaldo came to Saudi, same levels. It will literally be like a grand scheme the way they would present him to the world. So I think that was in their thinking that we'll get him on board and then eventually we'll send him after 1 year. Now some will say, well, why give him such you know, a huge bumper contract? He's earning about 400K, 450, whatever the amount is. The thing is, you've got to still present the project or present the contract to him like he's wanted. But in the back of their minds, they're thinking, look, we have to think smart here. If we let go of him, as in I'm talking about last summer, we get no money. We have to invest another 100 million for replacement. For example, if we keep him on board on paper, which is for 2 years, playing for 1 more year, and then sell him on to Saudi. I don't think Europe or any of those teams would have, been in the forefront, but they thought maybe the Saudi will always be there. I think this is the game that they've played. It's just that it's come a bit early for them. They weren't expecting to sell him in January, but I do believe that Saudi clubs have approached Liverpool and said, "Look, you clearly aren't playing the player. He's been dropped for the last 3 games. How about we talk business? How about we offer you this amount of money, and then we get him in January?" I think that's literally what's happening in the back. So call it a conspiracy. We'll soon find out what happens in the end. But I do feel like that is the way that Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes have played it, and I think the club will benefit. Is that the right way? No, because we are mistreating a club legend. A club legend should not be sold the way it looks like it's going to happen now in January. So yeah, absolutely crazy. Um, Bo says we know the Brighton game is his last, but what if Slot doesn't even pick him to be on the bench? It's a possibility. Yeah, but he won't get that. What he will end of the season deserves a proper goodbye. Sorry, guys, I'm struggling today. But I agree with you. Bo said he's at the stadium. Give him after. Yeah, so he'll be there in attendance. He might not be in the squad, but even if players aren't selected, they're behind the bench, if that makes sense. So he'll be there and he'll say his goodbyes to the away fans, which is not the way to do it, but it's the only fixture that he can do because after that, uh, he's going to depart and play for Egypt in AFCON. So yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. Leave me a comment up there. Are you okay? I'm struggling. I don't know what it is. I think I'm in a room where there's a lot of dust. So you might be right. I think Slot has put something in my water. Because I'm struggling today. I've not been that bad in recent days, but I'm struggling to string along a sentence. But we'll get through it. Just bear with me, and we'll get through it today. So, okay, that was the tweet from earlier today, right? But there has also been no. We mentioned the clubs there, um, in terms of Barcelona, Bayern Munich. I don't think those are realistic clubs, but there has been rumors to suggest that it's not just Saudi Arabia, several European clubs, but also MLS team. I think one in particular, a newcomer in San Diego, have explored the idea of signing Salah. Um, I think it's Saudi Arabia. That is going to be his most likely destination. I don't see it being any other club. I highly doubt he remains in Europe. I don't see, Barcelona, that means they would have to displace Yamal. That's not happening. Bayern Munich, they'll have to displace Elise. That's not happening. So I don't think these clubs are sort of realistic destinations for him. For me, it's Saudi. And at this stage of his career where he's in a bit of a decline, I feel like he will be able to flourish there. He'll be able to play there for a prolonged time in comparison to for him to stay in Europe because I don't think he'll have that longevity, if I'm being honest. So for me, it's Saudi, and I feel like it could be one of the teams like Al Ittihad or Al Hilal. So yeah, let's see what happens. But I believe Saudi will be the next destination for Mohamed Salah. Now, mm, yesterday I spoke about Konate being available for 15 million. I said to you guys, I'd happily accept that offer. Maybe Liverpool have found his replacement. According to rumours, Liverpool are considering a move for Jeremy Jacquet as a replacement for Ibu Konate. Arsenal, there we go. The team that has about 20 defenders were keen on signing over the summer, but decided not to formalise their interest and they end up going for Mosquera and Hincapi. So my thoughts on this player, I've not seen too much of him. Um, he's a young up and coming centre back, very tall, more sort of Langley rather than a built sort of defender. Um, decent ball playing ability, not a powerhouse like Ibu Konate, but more of a ball playing centre back. I think he's from what I'm saying, he's played in a back three, but can also play in a back four as well with ease. So decent talent. But for me, not good enough to be at this stage of his career, not good enough to start ahead of Konate if Konate was to stay or challenge for that sign. I feel like he would be one for the future. Same kind of profile, I would say, as Leone, who unfortunately, of course, is injured now. Um, but he can play on both sides. He can play on the left side as he's got a decent left foot as well, but he's predominantly right footed. So decent talent. Question would be how much would he cost? Um, if it's upwards of 40, 50 minutes, a bit high. I'd rather go for another target. But if you haven't seen him, I think Steve says he's not heard of this kid. Do check out some compilation. It looks like a decent talent to me. Boss has said just like with Killer, yeah, someone's been spiking a bottle. It's definitely Slot. Um, well, he said I'd love it if Salah rejects all the offers comes out, and he said he's staying to fulfill his contract. And after every game comes out and says, where Slot's gone wrong, that would be fantastic. But I don't think the club will allow that. So yeah, Jeremy Jacquet, probably a player that I'm going to keep an eye on a bit more because he has been linked to a move to Premier League. He was linked to Arsenal before. Um, one for the future, I'd say. I don't think he's ready for the step up to play for Liverpool in the first team, but just my opinion there. Another player that I mentioned a few days ago is Edison, a player we've been linked to before. The current rumor is that about Barcelona and Liverpool are the front runners to sign the Atalanta midfielder, an offer of around 55 million euros, which would be 45 million pounds, I think, required to sign him. He was previously a target for the likes of City and Newcastle. My thoughts, Edison, I do rate him. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he would be a player that would be a slight upgrade um, to what McAllister's doing, but then again, most players would be right now. Um, 50, 40, 45, 50 million is about right, to be fair. So I think he would be a good profile for us. A player that can play in a double pivot, can play box to box, full of energy, industrious, hard worker. So I feel like he would be the type a good player to have, I would say, in our squad. Um, Whether it will be a January signing, I'm not too sure. I know Richard Hughes, aka the Notebook, which is his nickname apparently, has contacts in Atlanta. It's the club that he played for in his youth days. So maybe he's got a connection there and he can get the player through. But um, a likelihood of this happening in January, I'm not too sure. I think maybe a summer target. But then again, I'd want it to be where we sign two midfielders. To be fair, now I'm just being greedy, aren't I? But let's see. But in terms of the player, I do like him. I do rate him. I don't know how he's performed so far this year. I haven't seen much of him this season, but in the campaign when they beat us in Europa League, looked really good. Last season, I watched him a couple of times. He looked good as well. So for me, good player, would fit the way we play. I just don't know if it's a January target. Just gonna go through some of the comments here. Uh, Well, it's just look on Zagozi and your head will be turned. Trust me, bro. I'll definitely look into it. Um, GTV said, big up, bro. Big up, G. I hope you're doing well. And guys, please make sure to subscribe to GTV. Good friend of the show. Does great content, not just Liverpool focused. Talks about everything, football related. Great in terms of, speaking about upcoming talent. He's got an eye for upcoming players there. So yeah, definitely tune in and make sure you subscribe to his channel as well. Also, your top three manager choices. I don't know how realistic it is, but for me, it's Alonso, Enrique. Hmm, third one. I might go Nagelsmann. No, that's not a name that you like, but I might go with Nagelsmann just because I feel like he would bring that attacking football or that brand of attacking football that we want to see as fans. And I think he would get the best out of the likes of Rowan Wirtz. So for me, that would be my top three. Mm. Um, just Steve says Iraola. I hear that. Because with no, I hear it. No one's still risk. So that's why I hope we put all our eggs on one basket for Alonso, and especially with the rumors circling that if he loses, he could be out the door. So it could be a realistic target more so than not. Okay, now that was players. Now we're going to talk about managers or potential managers that have been linked with Liverpool. Um, Steve said we've won trophies with Spanish managers before us. We have. And funny enough, we are going to be talking about Spanish managers not right now. So the rumor is that, believe it or not, Liverpool have held initial talks with Como head coach Fabregas as a potential replacement for Slot. Senior figures are impressed by his progress, but will only make a decision on the managerial position on their own terms. So, my thoughts on this. Look, I've looked into Fabregas. I've been impressed in terms of his ideology and innovative tactics that he's been presenting in his current team. But I think this is someone who's inexperienced for me. I think it would be huge pressure and a huge risk for Liverpool to appoint him to replace Slot. People say, well, maybe we try and get him on board before he becomes that guy, and then it's difficult to get him. I understand that, but At this age, I feel like we need experience in our team. Um, so for me, even though I'm impressed by his philosophy, I think it would be a risk. But let's see what happens in the future. You never know. But this is something that was mentioned earlier today. Apparently, Real Madrid have held an emergency early morning meeting at the Bernabeu to decide Alonso's future. The club is divided on whether he should stay or be sacked, and Wednesday's clash against Man City is now seen as his final chance to save his job. Now, excuse me, my thoughts on that. If that was to occur, we have to be all over it. We have to be all over it. For me, Alonso would be, in my eyes, the number one candidate. I think he has everything in the locker to manage his team going forward. Knows what it takes to be a success. He's a former player. As a manager, he's got his stripes. He's won league titles in Bundesliga. I know not the Premier League, but still has won a league title and did it in amazing fashion. Of course, question marks in regards to his current time at Real Madrid, but Real Madrid is not every club. They are very much on player power, in my opinion. Players have always had their say. They've always been more vocal about the managers, and if they're not happy, the manager ends up being sacrificed. So for me, he would be welcomed with open arms at Liverpool, and I feel like he would be the right appointment. To be fair, but if Fozzie said it last night, now with the prima donna, I hear it. That's why he's not my number one choice. But I feel like he's got a bit more in the locker to be up there. I'd go for Alonso. That's my first choice there. Also, so you think Inzaghi is a realistic Aussie or just me dreaming? I don't think it's unrealistic. I feel like if the club views him as highly as you do, he definitely has to be in contention. I just don't know if he'd leave mid-season. I don't know if he'd want to come back to Europe because, quite frankly, he's earning a bucket load of money there, so he might not want to give that up. So it could be different factors involved. Uh, Bolton would also take Gerrard as an assistant. You think? No, I don't think Gerrard would accept the assistant role, an assistant manager role. I don't think he would do that. I think he would rather work his way up, as in go to another club, manage somewhere else, and then further down the line become the main man at Liverpool. If he's been successful. So no, I'd be very surprised if that was the scenario. Wayne says, question Ozzy, should we all be City fans on Wednesday? 100%. Yes, we should be. Stevie Steve says, for me, Alonso 1, Irola 2, Stevie G 3. Fair enough. Also, I honestly think Edwards and Hughes don't want Alonso. I think I think he was earmarked as someone that we were looking towards last season. So I don't think that would be true, to be fair. I think they'll be all for it, to be honest, but who knows? Well, so Inzaghi number 1, Alonso 2, and Stevie number 3. Okay. Interesting list there. Now, next one, former red hair. Apparently the rumor is that Arbeloa is now the leading candidate to replace Alonso if he was to be sacked. He's the current manager of Real Madrid Castilla, and I believe an internal appointment will help settle the club as they go through a period of instability now. If that's the case, then we really are supporting City to beat Real Madrid. Um, and if Alonso gets sacked, oh, Liverpool have to make it happen. They have to make it happen. I wouldn't accept anything else. If Alonso's available, bring him on board immediately. And what Real Madrid do, I couldn't care less. If they want Arbeloa, they can do that. But for me, if that is their position and they want to sack Alonso, FSG, please do the right thing and sack Arsenal first and then appoint Alonso as the next Liverpool manager. So Steve says, class right back. Yeah, he was great. I remember his debut. He didn't even play right back. Played left back against a young Messi and defended really well in that game. And yeah, very consistent player to be fair. Boss says no Zidane to them. No, Zidane for me, I think he'll be the French national team manager. I think that's the role he's going for. Wayne says for me, Alonso, Nagelsmann, Glasner. Boss says Glasner, no, no, no. Would Alonso take it? I think he would take the Liverpool job. I think so. I think he knows what the club is about. It's not just a random club. He knows the love and support he'll get at Liverpool. So I truly believe, yes, he would. I think he would accept it. So let's see what happens in the future for us. Quadro said, why do you think it went so wrong with Alonso at Madrid? I don't know. It might just be where the players just haven't really embraced Alonso's methods or personality. Um, there seems to be a bit of unrest in that changing room. So it could just be he's not the right fit. I know he's changed tactics during the season as well. Um, of course, when you got a player like Vinicius Junior has been very vocal about his frustrations, it doesn't bode well. And they're all trying, keep their best players on on board with the current setup. So yeah, it's a strange one. But hopefully that benefits Liverpool because then we end up getting in. Christopher says Klopp is the perfect man for this current situation. I just don't think he's available. I don't think he'll want to come out of retirement. You never know. And also, not okay. I think he would come out of retirement to help Liverpool in this situation, but I don't think Michael Edwards will approach him. Let me say it like that. So for me, it's not realistic, unfortunately. Most in Vinny Mbappe, yeah. From one job to another, I would say so. Yeah, totally agree. Klopp number one, of course, yeah. But I don't think that situation will present itself, to be fair. Deleuze says, Oz, who would you rather pick to be on today's squad? Prime Abdullah, Stephen, or Prime Jan Kronkamp? Bloody hell. We only signed him for 6 months, didn't we? I remember him, was it against Luton? We played a team like that in the FA Cup. He was bloody woeful, honestly. Oh, Prime Abdullah or Stephen. Oh, do you know what? That's a tricky one. I would probably go for Arbeloa because Arbeloa was more versatile. He could play left back very well and right back as well. And I feel like he had a bit more to his game from an attacking point, but I think defensively both were good. So one or the other, to be fair. But um, I'd say just about Arbeloa. Wayne seems to agree with me as well. Well, so what does Edwards have against Klopp Aussie? Klopp literally made Edwards famous. I think the relationship was great when it first was formed. But then what happened was we got successful, and Klopp had an idea that he wanted certain experienced players to get new contracts. Edwards' philosophy is that when you turn 30, you are in decline, so you have to leave. So I'm referring to the likes of Henderson and Milner, and because of that. Klopp ended up getting his way because he's a young club. It was on merit based on what he was achieving at the club, and one had to go, and ended up being Edwards, where he walked out in the end. So it's a power struggle. So it's not ironic that Klopp leaves and then Edward comes back. It's not a surprise, is it? So that's why I don't think Klopp is a viable option, because Edwards is still around and he's the CEO of football. He's got a promotion from what he had before. He was sporting director whilst he was at the club years ago. So yeah, that's the reason why, unfortunately. Uh, Steve said the last four club. Yeah, honestly, he was dreadful, wasn't he? Kratos said, I think like Salah and so one of Vinny and Xavi will leave Madrid soon. Be the case. Was it why did Edwards come back? A lot of fans are asking that question, to be fair. But let's see. Let's see if it ends up being a success. Right now, it's not looking good because in Newcastle's going, yeah, it's true. It is true. And that is the final rumor. And that is it for today, guys. I would love to talk more. I really would, but my voice, my cough is doing a bit of a madness right now. So I'll be sipping a lot of ginger, lemon, honey tea, whatever formula I got to use to get my voice back. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be doing a live watch along, and a match reaction show. So yeah, it's going to be interesting watch. Not looking forward to it, but it has to be done. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hold on, I've got one comment here. Hardly can't be worse in prime. Philip Deegan. Philip Deegan couldn't even stay fit. Um, and whenever he played, he was so clueless. He had no idea what to do on the pitch. So yeah, they were both just as bad, to be fair. Um, but that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to Bo, Wayne, Amir, Daz. Who else do we have? Ozan, Patos, Abdul, GTV. Big up yourself, G, as always. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, if I missed you, apologies. But yes, thank you for tuning, guys. As I mentioned, we'll be back tomorrow. Watch along and then match reaction show. And look, if there's any transfers, coming around, we'll definitely talk up about those rumors. But I'm seeing more managerial appointments coming up more so than not. But yeah, we'll talk about that in more detail. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I'll speak with you all very soon. Goodbye.